At dinner, my girlfriend's male bestie put his hand on her thigh and whispered something that made her giggle. I didn't react, just calmly stood up, paid for MY meal only, and left them both sitting there. When she finally made it home 3 hours later, her key didn't work because original post. 31 male, own my house. Bought it 4 years ago with money I saved working offshore for 6 years. That detail matters. Remember it. My girlfriend moved in with me about 14 months ago. We've been dating for 8 months before that, and things were good. Really good. She was funny, ambitious, had her own career in pharmaceutical sales. I liked that she wasn't dependent on me financially. She paid a flat $800 monthly toward utilities and groceries as her contribution since I owned the place outright and had no mortgage. Enter her best friend, a guy she'd known since her first year of college. According to her, they tried dating briefly freshman year, realized they were better as friends, and have been platonic ever since. I wanted to believe that. I really did. The first few months, I barely noticed him. He'd come up in conversation occasionally. She'd mentioned grabbing lunch with him, or that he'd texted her something funny. Normal friend stuff. I have female friends. I get it. But somewhere around month 6 of her living with me, things shifted. He started showing up more. First it was dropping by to return a book she'd lent him. Then it was helping her pick out a birthday gift for her mom. Then he was at my house when I got home from work twice in 1 week because they were watching their show together. Their show. They had a show. I brought it up once. Casually. Said something like, "He's around a lot lately, huh?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't be that guy. He's literally like my brother." I dropped it because I didn't want to be that guy. The dinner happened 3 weeks ago. She suggested we go out to this steakhouse she'd been wanting to try. I made reservations, got us a nice table. I was actually looking forward to it. We'd both been busy with work and hadn't had a real date night in a while. We get there, sit down, order drinks. Everything's fine. Then she looks at her phone and says, "Oh, by the way, I told him he could join us. He's been having a rough week." I just looked at her. "You invited him to our date night? It's not a big deal. He'll probably only stay for appetizers." Before I could respond, he walked in, did this stupid little wave like we were all old buddies. Sat down next to her, on the same side of the booth. I was across from both of them, like I was conducting a job interview. He ordered a whiskey, top shelf. Didn't even look at the menu, just said, "I'll have what she's having," for the appetizer like they were in sync. She laughed at something he said that I didn't catch. I sat there quietly, watching, taking mental notes. The appetizers came. We ate. They talked about some inside joke from college. I contributed maybe 3 sentences over 20 minutes. At one point, he literally reached across her to grab a piece of bread and his arm brushed against her chest. She didn't react. Just kept talking. Then it happened. I saw his hand move under the table. Watched it land on her thigh. Watched his fingers settle there like they belonged. He leaned in and whispered something directly into her ear. She giggled. Actually giggled. This breathy, intimate sound I'd only ever heard in private moments between us. Neither of them looked at me. Like I wasn't even there. Something in my chest went cold. Not hot. Not angry. Just cold. Like someone flipped a switch and shut down the emotional part of my brain. I calmly pulled out my wallet, took out enough cash to cover my steak, my drink, and a modest tip. Placed it on the table. My girlfriend finally looked at me. "What you doing?" "Leaving." "What?" "What?" I stood up, looked at her directly. You know why. Her best friend had this smirk on his face. "Dude, relax. We're just friends." I didn't respond to him. Didn't even acknowledge he'd spoken. Just turned and walked out of the restaurant. I could hear her calling my name as the door closed behind me. Drove home. The whole way I was eerily calm. Like my brain had already processed what needed to happen and my body was just executing the plan. See, here's the thing about owning your house free and clear. It's yours. Legally, completely, unquestionably yours. When I got home, I did 3 things. First, I gathered all of her belongings that were easily accessible. Clothes from the closet, toiletries from the bathroom, the decorative pillows she'd insisted on buying, her yoga mat, her laptop, her collection of overpriced candles. Put everything in garbage bags and boxes. Placed them neatly in the garage. Second, I changed the code on my smart lock. The front door has a keypad entry. Takes about 30 seconds to update the code through the app. Third, I texted her, "Your things are in the garage. Code has been changed. We're done." Then I turned off my phone. She showed up 3 hours later. I know this because my doorbell camera recorded everything. She tried her old code. Didn't work. Tried it again. Nothing. Then she started knocking. Then pounding. Then she was on the phone, pacing my front porch, clearly upset. Her best friend pulled up about 20 minutes later. He tried talking to me through the door. "Come on, man, open up. Let's talk about this like adults." I was upstairs in my bedroom. Didn't respond. Didn't move. They stayed on my porch for almost an hour. She cried. He comforted her. At one point, he put his arm around her and she leaned into him. Interesting how quickly that brotherly comfort showed up. Eventually, they left. She took the bags from the garage. He loaded them into his car. My phone has been off for almost 72 hours now. I know I'll have to deal with the fallout eventually. But right now, I'm just sitting in my quiet house, drinking coffee, and wondering how I missed the signs for so long. Update 1, 5 days later. Turn my phone back on yesterday. Mistake? Maybe. But I needed to deal with reality eventually. What I found, 83 missed calls, 156 text messages, a full voicemail box, multiple emails. Most of it was from her. The text started pleading, turned angry, then circled back to pleading. A few highlights from her message marathon. "You're overreacting. Nothing happened. He's been my friend for 10 years. You can't just throw that away. I can't believe you locked me out of my home." That last one made me laugh out loud. Her home. She paid $800 a month in what was basically a voluntary contribution. My name is on the deed. Only my name. Always has been. Her best friend sent me some messages too. Calling me insecure, paranoid, pathetic. Said I was threatened by male friendship and that I'd regret this when I'm alone. I screenshotted everything. Didn't respond. Then the family got involved. Her mom called me. I actually answered this one because I'd always gotten along with her parents and thought maybe there was a reasonable conversation to be had. "Nope. How dare you throw my daughter out on the street like trash?" She told me everything. "You're jealous and controlling, and she deserves better." Did she tell you that her friend had his hand on her thigh at dinner? While I was sitting right there. Silence. Then, she said he was just being supportive. She was stressed about work. Sure. Thigh-touching stress relief. Very common treatment. She hung up on me. Her dad texted me later. Just said, "Don't know what really happened, but thought you were a good guy. Sorry it ended like this." He didn't ask for my side. Didn't push. Just a quiet acknowledgement that something had gone wrong. Her brother, though. Her brother was a different story. He showed up at my house unannounced. Just knocked on my door Sunday afternoon like we were buddies. I answered because I saw him on the camera and figured I'd rather handle it face-to-face. "Look," he said, "I know my sister can be a lot, but kicking her out over a misunderstanding is pretty extreme, don't you think?" Was it a misunderstanding when he had his hand on her upper thigh and whispered something that made her giggle? Because I was there. I saw it. She didn't push him away. Didn't even flinch. He shifted uncomfortably. She said you were taking it out of context. What's the appropriate context for another man touching your girlfriend like that? He didn't have an answer. Just mumbled something about family and keeping the peace and drove off. Here's where things got interesting. 2 days ago, I got a formal letter delivered to my house. From a lawyer. Her lawyer. She was claiming common law, residency rights, and demanding I return her property that I'd allegedly damaged during the eviction. The letter threatened legal action if I didn't provide her access to retrieve additional belongings and compensate her for the wrongful lockout. I read it twice. Then I called my own lawyer, a guy I'd used for the house purchase who's handled a few things for me over the years. His response, after I explained everything, "She has no case. Your state doesn't recognize common law marriage without specific criteria she doesn't meet. She was a month-to-month guest contributing to household expenses. You gave her notice via text, which is more than required for a non-tenant. The belongings she claims are damaged. Did you damage them? No. I packed everything carefully. It's all on doorbell camera footage. Then she's bluffing. This is intimidation, not a real legal strategy." He drafted a response letter for me. Very professional. Basically said, Here's the evidence of her belongings being properly returned. Here's documentation of her living arrangement with no formal lease. And here's a polite suggestion that she drop this before it becomes embarrassing. But that's not even the best part. Remember how her best friend loaded her stuff in his car? Remember how she stayed with him that first night? Yeah, she's still there. Moved right in, actually. Saw it on her social media before I blocked her. Photos of them at his apartment. Her stuff on his shelves. Looking real cozy. 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks for her to go from he's like my brother to living with him. One of our mutual friends texted me. Said they'd seen her and the best friend out together and that they were definitely not acting like siblings anymore. His words, not mine. I just sent back, not surprised. Some people in my life have asked if I feel vindicated. If knowing I was right makes it easier. Honestly, not really. I didn't want to be right. I wanted to be paranoid and wrong. I wanted to apologize for overreacting and have everything go back to normal. But you can't unsee what I saw. And you definitely can't unfeel that cold realization that you've been played. More to come, probably. Update 2, 2 weeks later. I know I said there'd be more, but I thought it would be small stuff. Quiet resolution. Maybe she'd just fade away and I'd move on. That's not what happened. So her lawyer's letter went nowhere. My lawyer responded. She backed off legally. I figured that was the end of it. Wrong. Her best friend, and I'm going to start calling him what he actually is, her actual boyfriend now, started a campaign. Not online, not at work, something more personal. He started telling people I was abusive. First, I heard it from a mutual friend. She called me, clearly uncomfortable, and said, "Look, I don't believe it, but people are saying you pushed her." That the lockout was violent. I didn't touch her. I wasn't even home when she arrived. Everything is on my doorbell camera. I know. I'm just telling you what's going around. The rumor spread to her coworkers, then to some of my coworkers because a few of them know people in her industry. Suddenly, I was getting weird looks at work. One of my colleagues actually pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home. I was livid, not hot-headed angry, but that cold fury that makes you very, very focused. I consulted with my lawyer again. He said defamation is hard to prove and expensive to pursue, but that I should document everything and consider sending a cease and desist if it continued. So I did something better. Remember my doorbell camera footage? I compiled a highlight reel. Not the whole thing, just key moments. Her trying the code multiple times from several feet away. Her pacing and crying, but no one touching her. Her best friend showing up and loading bags. Her walking away with her belongings intact and undamaged. No violence. No confrontation. Nothing but a woman locked out of the house she didn't own. I didn't post it online. That's the mistake people make. They think public vindication is the goal. It's not. I sent the footage directly to 3 people. The mutual friend who warned me, the coworker who asked about my home life, and her father. 2 of them responded immediately. The mutual friend said she'd set the record straight with anyone who asked. My coworker apologized and said he felt stupid for even questioning it. Her dad called me. First time we'd spoken since everything went down. I saw the video, he said. His voice was tired. I asked my daughter about it. She said you edited it, that there's more footage you're hiding. She's welcome to subpoena my doorbell company's cloud storage. It's time-stamped and unedited. I'll sign a release today. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't think she's telling me the truth anymore. About a lot of things. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Not for her, but for him. He seemed like a decent guy caught in a mess his daughter created. I'm sorry too, he said, and hung up. The rumors stopped after that. Not completely, but enough. The people who mattered knew the truth. The people who didn't matter could believe whatever they wanted. But here's the part that actually gave me some closure. About a week ago, I ran into one of her friends at a coffee shop. Someone she'd been close with since high school. We recognized each other, did the awkward nod, and then she surprised me by walking over. Can I tell you something? Off the record. I shrugged. Sure. I told her this would happen. Like years ago. She and her best friend have always been weird. Everyone saw it except her. Or maybe she saw it and just didn't care. Why are you telling me this? Because she's been posting stuff about how she finally found someone who truly understands her, and it's honestly disgusting. She was with you for 2 years, had a nice life, and threw it away for a guy who still lives with a roommate and drives a car with a cracked windshield. I thought you should know that people aren't as fooled as she thinks. I thanked her and went back to my coffee. Here's the thing about revenge. Real revenge. It's not about grand gestures or public takedowns. It's about your peace. My ex is living in a cramped apartment.